Cubs get some tough injury news, losing Justin Steele for the rest of the 2025 season. He's going to have elbow surgery this week. Not sure if it's going to be Tommy John or if it's going to be an alternative in which he gets a brace put in his UCL. That's the ligament that is repaired during Tommy John's surgery. So it's certainly a really tough loss for the Cubs. It's about as big of a loss as it can get for the rotation and the team as a whole, a team that needs starting pitching, a team that you could have argued came into 2025 still short of one arm, especially with the roster they constructed and being bold and going to get Kyle Tucker. So where do the Chicago Cubs go from here? They have some options, Cody. They have trade options. They have depth built up in the minor leagues. I don't know how fast this timeline's going to go. I don't know if it will come in the form of a big-time trade. The Cubs have already made one. Certainly trading for a guy like Sandy Alcántara is going to completely gut your farm system. Where are the Cubs right now? Where do they turn? What do you think the first kind of move is? They're going to tread some water here to start? Because that seems to be the way it feels.
Yeah, I think they're going to tread water to start here because it is April 13th as of this recording. And you have some depth. Now, the criticism to this depth isn't even really about the players. It's just more about we just don't know what they're going to give us. Jordan Wicks, late 2023, got called up and was awesome. His major league debut against the Pirates, he was awesome.
Probably his best game.
The rest of the season, he was awesome. Last year, he started the year effective, had trouble going deep in the games, but then got hurt. Came back around beginning of June or beginning of July, got hurt again, oblique injury. Comes back late September, I want to say, and wasn't very good then either. So last year, to me, it was more about injuries than the fact of him being good or bad. I don't know what we're going to get, but we've seen him be good, right? And he was a first-round pick of theirs back in 2021, so the Cubs clearly like him. So there's him. You have Cade Horton, who's a free agent, or who's your top pitching prospect. And I just don't know when he's going to be ready or when the Cubs think he's going to be ready. He's also had injury problems in the past, so I'm also like, don't waste any more bullets. Let's just throw him out there. That's my, kind of pessimistic, like, kind of freaking out thought. But I also don't want to rush a guy, especially with a pitcher. So there's two guys in Iowa that you could call up and put in the rotation.
Yeah, I think it's too early for the Cade Horton button. He's going to be here in 2025. But I think the key word is uncertain. Are his numbers in Iowa good? Has he had a really nice rise to the minor league system? Yeah, he's got the swing and miss. He's got the velocity. He's got a bunch of different pitches. He's got stuff and velocity combined. I think he's going to be a pretty solid pitcher in Major League Baseball. But the Cubs are in a winning now window. You got to replace consistency with consistency. I think that this is going to come in some form of a trade. And because it's April, there's not a lot of teams who are going to hit the panic button because they're a couple games under 500. There's not a lot of teams who are going to say, hey, let's trade our top pitcher right now because we still have, we still feel as though we have the ability to make the playoffs with the rosters we constructed. I think that'll be a way with a lot of AL teams. It's a little bit more open than the National League. The National League has some of the better teams in it. But there are a couple of teams who play in tough divisions and who have started the year pretty rough, who may look to, move on from a starter. Pablo Lopez is one that comes to mind. Minnesota Twins. They continue to battle injuries. They don't exactly have the depth to make up for when one of their key hitters is out. Right now, they find themselves really struggling. But they play in a bad division, a division that they won last year and made the postseason. But if you remember, too, Pablo Lopez with postseason experience was awesome in that game. Okay, so let's get away from the Twins. How about the Tampa Bay Rays, a team that loves to manufacture pitching? Drew Rasmussen's a guy that I really like. Maybe go give them a call. He's a little bit, he's not old, but he's a little bit on the older side. Flip a couple prospects. That's not going to break the bank. Sandy Alcántara will break the bank. He's obviously the best of the bunch. I think the Yankees are really going to be interested in him with all the injuries they've had in their rotation. So if you want to maybe beat a bidding war or don't get into a bidding war, maybe now is the time to make that trade, because the Marlins are a team that know they're not going anywhere this year. They're a team you could call right now and make the trade. ESPN reported that on the broadcast against the Dodgers in the series finale. Hey, this guy's available now. The price just has to be right. I think that's where it comes from. It'll come in some form of a trade.
Yeah. I definitely think that they're going to add a piece.
Mm-hmm.
Sandy Alcántara is at the top of my list because he's got years of control. He's won a Cy Young. He's on a team that's absolutely selling, even though if you look at the record, they're actually kind of off to a fine start.
They were in first place over the weekend. I don't remember, but yeah, they're
off to
good.
A fine start. Will that last? I would say no. And I don't think the Marlins even want it to last, to be honest with you. But we'll see. I do think that if the Cubs come with a offer that they really like to start, maybe they pull the trigger. The Marlins traded Luis Arias last season to the Padres early on.
Very early.
So it's not like the Marlins are, normally waiting until the end of July to move some of their best players. So he's at the top of my list. But here's a guy that I don't think anyone's talking about that I feel like perhaps, depending on how their season goes, and I think it would be a deadline trade. Framber Valdez. Going to be a free agent next year.
That's an interesting pick.
He's 30. Yeah. He's 31, going to be 32. If he's not, he might be 30. He might turn 32 later this season. He's a free agent going into the offseason. So he's in Milwaukee right now. The Astros are under 500 as of this recording. I think the Astros will figure it out. I think, but I also don't know because they've also not played great baseball to start the season. And I personally, as we sit here right now, I don't think they're going to win that division. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. They have made the playoffs every year for the last 7, 8, 9 years now. But he is a guy that, he comes from a team that the Cubs just made a trade with.
Mm-hmm.
So that Jed Hoyer has experience talking with Dana Brown.
A couple trades, yeah.
Right? So I think it all depends on how the Astros are doing. The Astros are definitely a team that if they were to trade Valdez, it would be at the deadline. So That's not something early on. That's something down the road. And I believe I'm reading Spotrac right. It says I was reading the 2026 free agents. He's on this list.
The thing is, the Cubs have options. I think that the Justin Steele news is devastating. Losing the AC or staff, losing a guy who has just been the rock of the rotation the last couple of years and has consistently been a guy who goes out every 5 days and gives you everything, even when he doesn't have his best stuff. You're not going to fully replace a guy like that unless you go out and make a big-time trade and get a Cy Young winner. I don't know if that's the move Jed Hoyer wants to make because he loves the depth that he's built, and it is good depth. I don't think it's bad depth. I think that the Cubs have moves here. They still have guys that are going to Assad hasn't played yet. We'll see if he gets slotted in. He was really good last year for about 2 months. There's one more name I want to mention. It's Luis Castillo. Maybe reopen the trade talks with the Mariners. They're kind of in a weird spot still. They don't hit the ball very well. They're just not a very good offensive team. They knew that going into this year, but decided to roll the dice with their stout rotation anyway. Maybe they're like, hey, we made a mistake. Let's try to get more balanced.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of the names and teams, but it's limited right now.
Mm-hmm. I don't mind that just because the Cubs did call the Mariners last year, but I think the Mariners are asking for the world. And how long are the Mariners willing to wait for bats? You know what I mean? It takes two to tango. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the Mariners in the offseason were asking for way too much for Luis Castillo in his 30s, who was trending down based off the underlying peripherals.
Yeah, they were asking for a lot.
My other name that I would get on board for just because he has experience and success and all of that, and he's on a team that I feel like is going to be selling, Max Scherzer on the Blue Jays.
Huh.
I don't think the Blue Jays are going to be in it. I think that they could absolutely move Scherzer at the deadline to a contending team.
That's going to do it here. Justin Steele goes on the injured list for the rest of the season. Cubs are going to have some moves to make. We will see what happens here in the next couple of weeks. But regardless, they're 11-7 and coming off a really nice West Coast trip to Los Angeles, taking 2 out of 3 from the world champion Dodgers.